So I have here a note from my producer. Can you do a quick rundown of all the Mission Impossible movies?
What the hell's a rundown?
Smart people on every side are close to panicking.
Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning is part 2 of Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. So technically, shouldn't it be called Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 2: The Final Reckoning? Anyway, Ethan and his team are still trying to defeat an evil AI called the Entity, which is of course hell-bent on destroying the world. They have to get a doohickey that connects to a gizmo so they can plug it into the whatchamacallit. In a nutshell, it's a race against the clock to avoid nuclear Armageddon. Alright, here's a quick rundown of all the Mission Impossible movies. Mission Impossible 1, great, iconic, loved it. Mission Impossible 2, it was okay. Mission Impossible 3, that's the one with Philip Seymour Hoffman, excellent movie. Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, great. Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, again, really good. Mission Impossible Fallout, probably my personal favorite. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. It's a little long, a little bonkers, but still pretty okay. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 2, The Final Reckoning. 7 out of 8 is not a bad score. I did not care for this final installment of the franchise. Given its track record, I expected a real nail-biter like Fallout, but instead, this felt more like A Good Day to Die Hard, disappointing and underwhelming. I was far from being whelmed. Don't get me wrong, I really appreciate the time and effort that goes into making these films, but if they had just spent a little more time on the script, maybe I would have liked it better. This movie is almost 3 hours long, and about an hour of that is spent on flashbacks to older movies, montages of Ethan's past actions, and of course, exposition. So much exposition. It also has the longest intro before the title screen I have ever seen, because the recap of part 1 is lengthy, to say the least. Most of the effort went into the action sequences, which is to be expected. It's a Mission Impossible movie. But even the two biggest set pieces, one involving water, the other is a stunt in the air, don't feel any more special than anything we've seen before. It certainly is impressive for a 62-year-old to pull all of this off, but I missed the creativity of the earlier films. For example, there's a lot of bomb-related tension in this movie, which I usually enjoy, but they reused the same trick twice. I was like, really? Again? And then there's the characters in this movie, because Ethan Hunt's team, if you could call it that, doesn't even feel like a real team anymore. Aside from Benji and Luther, none of the other characters have been around longer than part 1, so I really couldn't care less about them. In fact, at least 3 of them joined the team just willy-nilly, and suddenly everyone acts like they've been best friends for years, which really dials down the tension of the movie. If you don't care about any of those characters, there's nothing to latch onto. Supposedly, Rebecca Ferguson read the script for these 2 films, realized that her character wasn't fun to play anymore, and then asked to be killed off early in part 1. That's a smart move, lady. The movie also introduces this death cult that supports the evil AI, and I thought they'd play a bigger role in the story, but no, it was basically just a setup for one of the later fight scenes. There are some great moments in this movie, but they're drowned out by all the self-congratulatory montages and flashbacks. They even retcon a major plot point of Mission Impossible 3, one of the better movies. So yeah, I can't help but be disappointed in the ending of a franchise that I really liked from the start. Brian De Palma's movie from 1996 still holds up today. I rewatched it recently, and apparently so did the writers of this movie, because they bring back a very minor character who everyone in this movie seems to know. And this time, I actually needed a flashback to remember who this character was. So, do I recommend Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 2: The Final Reckoning? I guess, but not really. In my headcanon, the franchise ended with Fallout. That was a true roller coaster of a movie. I wasn't the biggest fan of Dead Reckoning Part 1 to begin with. I mean, come on. The villain is an evil AI. Honestly, these two movies are pretty silly. So, I'm just gonna pretend they don't exist. Wait. What am I recommending again?
I need you to trust me.
Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning The Final... No. Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning Part 2... Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 2... Mission Impossible Part... Nope. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 2... Dead... Mission Impossible Part 2 The Final... Shit. The Final Shit. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 2 The Final Reckoning. Oh my god.